5, and we can kickstart the session. And whoever joins in, we can always see the first half of the session on the recording. So, hi everyone, I'm Sukriti Verma and I'm the co founder of Shift Eco. Shift Eco is an online platform for eco friendly products, and one major aspect that we focus on is just learning and sort of encouraging people to kickstart their sustainability journey. And For that, today we have Kim and Marita who are going to be talking about how to make changes in your kitchen to make it more sustainable and eco-friendly. Kim is the founder of the Bee's Knees, and Marita is joining her today, who also runs a foundation in HR consulting. However, they both are personally um, driven and very, very involved in sort of making personal changes in living an eco-friendly lifestyle. And so, personally, I'm really looking forward to this session because a kitchen is a great place to start because we're literally eating 3 to 5 meals out of there every single day. The entire family is sort of, depending on the kitchen, and just making a few changes in your daily habits in the kitchen can actually really go a long way um, in your sustainability journey. So, Kim and Marita, I'd leave it to you to first introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your journey, and take forward the session.
Okay, I'm going to actually share a screen. So Kim, if you want to do that while I'm sharing the screen, it will be good. It'll just take me a minute or two to set it up.
Sure. So good afternoon, good morning for everyone. Great to see you all virtually. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us. So as Sukriti introduced us, Kim and Marita, so we're founders of the Bee's Knees, which is in part sustainable, eco-friendly products, but also working on ways in which you can do things, small things, make small sustainable changes in your own life. And we're talking to you today about the sustainable kitchen. So learning to make small changes. So I think that's the key, those small consistent changes, obviously to make a big impact, yeah, even if you're a complete beginner. But we might have some people who have a little bit more experience, or you might just be starting your journey. So we've got some slides, we've got some questions, but feel free to put those in the chat as well. And lots of tips and tricks for the next sort of 45, 50 minutes. Great to be here, and thanks to Shift Eco for hosting us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to pick up on something that was said in the introduction there, which is there were two words used in the introduction, which was sustainable and eco. And the eco choices that are sustainable is really what Kim and I are looking at, the small changes so that you can introduce them into your kitchen and sustain them, and that we then have an impact with what we do. So what we're going to cover, Kim has just alluded on it, but from here we've got 5 touch points in your kitchen that have the biggest impact, so we'll cover those. Common challenges that people face, and we're going to ask you a couple of questions on Mentimeter in a moment to understand where you are on your journey. The mistakes that we've made, and we've made enough of them, and how to avoid those ones, but I'm fairly sure we'll find more mistakes to make and learn from. Products that we use, that we like and that we recommend. And our 5 top tips for going plastic free. It's a lot to squeeze in an hour, but we'll get there. What we would like to do with questions is we would like you to put your questions into the chat box as you're going through, and we'll monitor them and we'll get to them throughout the webinar. As well as leaving time for questions at the end. But to get a flavour of who you are at the other side of the green light, this green light and I have become really good friends in the last couple of months, we've got 3 questions for you. So if you could, if you've got your phone with you, hover the camera over the QR code, and there'll be a pop-up box. So when you go in, just click on it and it will bring you into Mentimeter, or you can type into your browser menti.com and the code is 43294535. And they're just 3 very quick questions. The first question is, are you a complete beginner here today with what's happening in the kitchen? Are you trying to improve, or are you an expert? And I think of the group of us that we've got here in the call, we've got 6 people and everyone is trying to improve. And I think that's the place always to be, is trying to improve, because we'll get better with what we do. Okay, second question is, what would you like to get out of today? So this is a free answer text, and Sabrina has already told us she's looking for tips and tricks, and Kiri wants non-smelly solutions to composting. But is there anything else that you would like us to address today? An idea of where to start next? Yes, sure. And if starting next implies that you are somewhere, so if you could drop in where you're at the moment in your journey, that would be fabulous, so we know where to maybe direct you next. Easy changes, and most of the changes that we recommend are easy and small, so picking the ones that work for you. Eliminating plastic waste in the kitchen, so many touch points for that. New ideas from expert, compost veggie options, how to use less processed food, less plastic. Kim will address all of that. And reminders of the simple things, because, oh yeah, it is about being organized. A lot of this is about our thinking, our planning, and actually our belief systems around how easily we can do it. So the reminders are really good. Okay, Kim, you can work with that. I think it's absolutely fab, directing us and where we're going to put our content. And the last question for you is just to know, because again at the beginning we said we all cook at home, but we're very conscious actually we all don't cook at home. There are people that maybe don't cook at all, and so we just get a feel for how many of you maybe cook at home, eat out. So you occasionally, I think, Kim, we've most people almost cooking, and they occasionally eat out or have a takeout. Okay, all right, wonderful. So what we'll do with that information is that we're going to use it to direct where we're going to put the generic content. Some of the challenges I think we have echoed there, and some more that we have faced, is that on the surface, people, if you don't know where to start or what do I do next, it can often seem complicated. Sometimes people have told us, or it can feel it's a lot of effort with little or no outcome. And I love that comment from earlier, that it's about being organized. And I think maybe sometimes people don't know what system to work their way through. So Kim has a kitchen system that she uses, and we'll take you through that. I don't know where to start or how to start. There's some really simple advice on that. I'm finding it expensive. I'm not sure it's for me. People aren't supportive in my life, and they're the ones that we hear most often, but there's ... There are lots of other challenges that people believe are there. So we'll address some of these challenges as we go through, and how we have done it. Kim is the storyteller about the two of us. So how we began this eco journey, Kim, do you want to pick that up? Kim,
yeah, sure. Thanks, Marita. And just going back to yep, can you hear me now? Yep. So yeah, just going back to some of those comments, I think already if you're eating only one meal a week or getting a delivery or takeaway, you're already in a great position in terms of running a sustainable kitchen. But in terms of Marita and I mean, we've been friends for many, many years, I think 2 decades and counting, but more recently as business partners in terms of the business. So we're friends. Marita likes to say that we do lots of things in a similar way, but also very different. And that often makes for interesting discussions around the dinner table or on calls. So we've got quite a different take on many things that we're going to cover today, but also lots of similarities. So that's a little bit of our friendship, and then more recently the setup with the bee's knees and wanting to provide ways in which to help people like us make better choices in the home, and in particular in the kitchen. So in terms of our next piece, our aha moment, I think if anyone's travelled overseas and if you've been to Thailand, for me, that has been a place that was always very heavy on plastic. And having spent a little bit of time there, felt like I got really sensitized to a lot of unnecessary plastic that's being used in the country there, even more so than probably Dubai. And on one of those trips that I had, I saw a product being used, which was a reusable wax wrap. And when I looked at that, I thought, this is such a simple thing. I've never seen it before. It's a great idea. Why don't I know about this? And if I don't know about this, maybe other people don't know about this. So it was this little light bulb moment of, if I don't know, other people don't know, how can we help ourselves and how can we help other people get access to products, to ideas, to behaviours, to doing things differently that will really help them in the home. So that for us was the piece of seeing these wax wraps and saying to Marita one night, I think these products are great. I think we should be doing something about it. And that's how the bee's knees came to life. So in terms of what we've learned, so again, going back to habits, going back to doing things differently, we know that if you do small things and you're consistent, that's the best way to make changes. I think as you saw at the beginning, sometimes this whole plastic-free, eco-friendly, sustainable can feel a little bit overwhelming, and there's a lot of information, so it can feel like you're not really sure where to start and what to do. So we know that if you make small, simple changes and you do that consistently, that's where you're going to make the biggest impact. And they will be incremental changes that as you make one, you then make another. We also know that about a third of the world's food is never eaten. Lots of different reasons for that. And here in the UAE, it's not necessarily the way that the food is not being taken from farm to the consumer, but it's happening in our homes. So we also know that there's a very big piece about us as consumers in our homes and the food waste that's happening and is contributing to issues with the environment. We know that from making those simple changes, from talking to others, sharing ideas, getting ideas from others, that everyone can influence people, and you can influence them in a really positive way. So even if you're sitting there thinking, wondering about what you're doing and how you do it, just simply making a change will impact someone around you, immediate family, it could be a friend, it could be a work colleague. And we also know that everyone can make a difference. So again, looking at climate, looking at the kitchen, looking at how you shop can feel a little bit overwhelming. But what we do know is you make those simple, consistent choices, changes in your habit, you really can make a difference. And I think the big learning for both Marita and I has been this piece of, when you start to do something, it opens up your eyes to something else. So you may start on a journey of trying to get fresher food or organic food, which gets you thinking about nutrition, that gets you thinking about how you eat, how you cook your meals. So we know that when you make these choices, it has this ripple effect that goes out through the rest of your life. And I think that for me has been a really interesting path that we've taken. So that's some of the learnings that we've had.
Kim, you've frozen there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what we bring to this is essentially we're bringing our many mistakes. So for you guys to take advantages of that, we found lots of things that work and lots of ways to make things work. But we've also found a lot of things that don't work. And we've discovered that access to information is really key in this journey. So, you know, it's not too late to make a difference. And one of the things that we've heard an awful lot at markets is, oh, my daughter will do this, or my son will love this. And it's about the next generation, but it isn't actually about the next generation. It is about what each of us can contribute, because one small swap does make a difference and one household does make a difference. We often hear people say it's idealistic or unrealistic and it's difficult to maintain and it's expensive. So that's where we're going to look at the small steps. Daily basis, like Kim said, start where you are. So whoever asked in the beginning of where do I go next or where do I start, it is wherever you are with whatever you have and do what you can. I think that is really the trick to it, is not to think of it as a whole or an entirety that might be overwhelming, but small steps. Where am I? And what can I do with what I have right now? And as Kim said, that provides a knock-on effect that you can then capitalize on, and it begins to roll and it becomes a little bit easier. So Kim is going to take us through the Bee's Knees kitchen system, and it's very much based on what Kim does in her own kitchen, and she's got this worked out to a fine art. So Kim.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so the way we think of sustainability is that a little bit like a journey. So where do you start that journey? And for us, it's really around planning your food and your meals, whether it's for the day, for the week, or a couple of weeks. Then how do you actually get that food, the food that you want to buy, that you need to purchase, how are you going to get it into your house? The next piece that's also important is how you store it and how you use the food. There's always going to be some kitchen waste, so we'll talk about how to manage that, how to minimize it. And if you do have waste, and Kerry, that's where your composting solution comes in, and Sabrina, who's also doing some composting. We're going to touch on cleaning products. So cleaning products also rolls over into the rest of the house, but there's also a place for it in the kitchen. And then also where can you start and can implement. So that's really our system, that journey of the food as it travels into your home, used, consumed, and then back out again. So in terms of planning, so here we've got lots of tips. So our first piece is, if you think about your daily shop or your weekly shop or your monthly shop for your food and your groceries, you often think of sort of the meal planning, and that's important because what we do know from experience is that if you map out the meals that you want to eat in advance, it may not seem as exciting or as spontaneous, but it makes sense. What we often find is busy homes, lots of kids with both parents working or one of the parents working, it makes sense to plan out your meals. But a step before that that also makes sense in terms of sustainability is starting with what's in your fridge. So before you sit down and make your meal plan for your week or your 2 weeks, have a look at actually what is in your fridge, what is in your cupboard, and look to how you can make a list and make a menu plan using up what you already have. I know myself, when I have shopped without a shopping list and I've gone and already have in the cupboard or I already have in the fridge. So the first place to start is look at what's in your fridge, take stock of that, and then start to develop your meal planning around what you already have available. That meal planning, as I said, both Marita and I didn't do this for years. It was on my own. I went and bought what I wanted for that particular day, but that's easy when you've got one person. If you're catering for more, if you're working, if you're busy, an easier shop is to do that on a longer time frame. Marita, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure, because I am on my own, and I am the exact opposite of Kim, which is where we find a lot of our discussion points and what works for people. I have always meal planned, but for a different purpose. It was to do around what I put into my body. And I can see Kiri saying there she is amazed at how much money she saves as well. So that's the knock-on effect. But I originally trained to be a home economics teacher, and it was drilled into me to meal plan, and that you don't go shopping when you're hungry. So when I shop when I'm hungry, I find I buy things that I wouldn't normally consider buying because it looks good, and that invariably comes with packaging and with waste in my kitchen. So I'm very structured in terms of what I buy, and I know what quantities come in. And a little bit different to Kim's household, where she's catering for a number of people, but she also uses the planning and the structure. And I think some of you said you have maybe occasionally a meal out. When you're planning, just take into consideration that's the, if you like, the whole in your week, that there's one meal there that's free and that you don't need to bring resources into the house for that. Okay, Kim?
Yeah, and I think just going back to that, third of our food is wasted, and for me that was quite shocking to read that. So if we think about what we as consumers can do about sustainability in our kitchen, it's minimizing that food waste. So that meal planning really helps. as you've said, yeah, in terms of saving money and that knock on. There's a great image here of a person's fridge. Mine never looks that organized, but I know that there are different systems that you can use where you have food that needs to be eaten now or in the next few days, making that available. So if any of the family does go into a fridge, they open up the door, top shelf or eye line is where the food is that needs to be eaten straight out. So starting at your fridge, doing that meal planning. A couple of things that I've tried that actually worked well for a few different reasons was using some of the meal delivery services. So there's different companies out there. One example I can vouch for is Hello Chef. We went with Hello Chef when we were trying to change some of the way that we were eating. And what I realized with that was getting inspiration from someone else. They had done the shop, the vegetables, the produce was really healthy. And it also, we didn't have a lot of excess food, and it also helped shift some of the ways that we were eating. Some of those meal programs are also very conscious around the waste and the packaging. So they've worked to, they will recollect the packaging that those meals come to. So there's meal delivery options. If you're super busy, if you are not a great cook in the kitchen, can be really helpful because there's usually a lot less waste that goes with those. Quite economical, just depends on how you would normally shop and what type of food you would eat, but great if you want to introduce some different food habits in or trying to change people's diet, which is what I did for the family. Completely switched everyone's diet out without them realizing what was going on. And that was through meal deliveries. It was great to see on the mentee question at the start around managing takeout, because I think the big piece here is if you cook at home, then you're already running a pretty good kitchen. As soon as you start to get deliveries, as soon as you start to get takeout, you start to bring in a lot of convenience, a lot of packaging, and probably a lot of waste. Maybe the food doesn't go to waste, but it's the packaging and everything that goes with it. So, and what has surprised me at the markets when we've had the opportunity to speak to people is the number of people in Dubai that do eat out a lot or get a lot of delivery. So that can be harder to do. So some of the things that we've done, if we do get a delivery, is request no condiments, no plastic cutlery, no napkins. There's a couple of places nearby to us that we actually go there and take our own containers, and the chef's good to put the food into our own containers. So then we're also minimizing that plastic packaging. So I think the takeout piece, it's great, I think, to have that relief from the kitchen and to go out for a meal every now and again. Then start to think about, okay, what is one thing that I could do a little bit differently given how that food comes to me? So as I said, if it's saying no to the cutlery, to the napkins, to the condiments, asking them to wrap and pack in less plastic, most of these companies will do that. And again, if you think about one thing that you could do, so if you're already meal planning, you're already shopping at your fridge, you're already using a service, the next time you order a delivery or go and do a pickup, think about what is the one thing that you could do differently in terms of that takeout prep. Because as I said, when you go for convenience, that's where the plastic, that's where the single-use items really come back in. And Kerry, yeah, great comment. Give them feedback about their packaging.
I think you read my mind there, Kiri, because I am a great one to give feedback. And you know, businesses, what I've found is businesses really appreciate it because as a consumer, they want to read and follow what the consumer wants. And if you don't give them that feedback, so I have found one of the ways that I have made changes and can impact change is not stay quiet about what is bothering me, but give that constructive feedback. I remember very early on in this journey, Kim was speaking about she was using Hello Chef. I was at a networking function and I met the lady who owns Hello Chef. And I said, oh, a friend of mine uses your product. And she said, oh, yeah, Kim. Kim always gives us very valuable feedback. And you don't often hear, because you don't get the business owner, you don't get access to the business owners very often. But it was really fantastic to know that she knew who Kim was and that she knew who what Kim's feedback was, and was able to say it was particularly in relation to packaging options, and she was able to say we're working on that, and that is feedback for Kim. So even if we don't always hear, giving that feedback influences what comes into our home, and then how we use that. Anything else you want to add there, Kim?
No, I think any other comments or questions? So I think it's really that prep planning. As I said, I always thought of meal planning years ago as a very spontaneous way to do it, but it makes sense. And I think in particular, if you're in a busy household, just having that all ready to go is one less stress at the end of the day. What are we having for dinner? So next step is then actually getting it into your house. So how do you shop? How do you bring that food from the supermarket, from the grocery store into your home? So I think that the first tip in terms of shopping is, for me, it's really choosing about where and how you go about your shopping. I think for many of us, we did quite a bit of online grocery shopping last year with COVID and with lockdown. That wasn't something that I typically did in the past, but it's something that I've kept up. And there's a reason for that, because what I've found is the fruit and veg groceries that I have access to online generally have a lot less packaging than some of the big brand supermarkets. Yeah, so I've made a choice to do some online food and grocery shopping, and with a delivery service packed into boxes that are then recyclable. I think the piece about shopping, when you go to the supermarket, there's plastic everywhere. So if you're thinking about single use, what you don't want to do is bring that into your home. The best place is not to bring it into the house, so that then you're having to manage it. So I think, Valeria, yeah, you talked about Kibsons. So that's who I've used quite a bit, because with Kibsons, they will recollect the big boxes. You can ask for absolutely everything without plastic. They do pack in paper, but you can also ask them to not include paper. There are some smaller supermarket chains that, if you speak to them, they will also make those deliveries without the packaging. Yeah, I know that some on the call probably also visit the fruit and veggie market, so you get access to larger quantities of food, and then you can take your own boxes or take your own baskets with you.
And just on
so
that,
first thing is think about where you shop and where you spend your money, and how you do that. Go ahead.
I think we got a delay there, Kim. No, that's all right. I'll come back to it. Okay, I think
I'm still here, yeah. So our second tip in the nude is not us going to the supermarket without clothes on. I know that sounds a little bit exciting for Dubai. So this is really thinking about, in particular, fruit and veg not being wrapped in plastic. So food in its natural format. So if you choose to go to a supermarket or a hypermarket, where generally it's local produce, where it's not already pre-packaged up, where it's sitting loose on display, and you can pick up as much or as little as you like. You can put that straight into your own basket. You can take your own bags. And the staff will be happy to weigh it and put it into your own containers. So that in the nude is thinking about not bringing single-use plastic or single-use items from the supermarket into your home. Because often if you buy a tray of cucumbers, you're unwrapping plastic, it might be on a plastic tray, you get it home, and then you're going to be responsible for disposing of that, as opposed to buying fruit and vegetables that are sitting loose. Often it's local. So I think the other piece of shopping is if you're able to go to the farmers market. So there's farmers market on the terrace, ripe market, and then obviously in the cooler weather we have a few more options, but that's where you're really going direct to source. So also in terms of the food coming out of the ground and then getting into your home, it's not being flown in from overseas countries. Yeah. As I said, in the nude is also the option for you to buy the exact quantities that you like. I know with a number of friends, if you're shopping for a smaller family, this idea of having to buy things in predefined quantities can often lead to food not being eaten. You know, you're having to buy a bag of oranges, and that's not how many oranges you're going to eat. So that in the nude, that buying it loose means you can buy exactly what you need and what you're going to eat. You can bring your own containers. So whether that's as the picture, shopping bags, string bags. If you go to the bulk food counter, you can provide your own jars. Most of the supermarkets now, the big hypermarkets, the supermarkets and the small chains are okay with you bringing your own things in, putting your food into that and then labeling the container. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that was a little bit unusual in Dubai, but you can take your bags, you can repurpose containers and pack as much of that in as you can at the supermarket. So what you're firstly doing is you're not using all those plastic bags at the fruit and veggie counter. In terms of those labels, because often if you use your own containers, then the staff are not sure what to do with all the sticky labels. I think we can also start to petition them to get those weighing sections direct at the checkouts, which they do in Australia. So you don't need to get anything weighed in advance. You do that at the checkout. But as we don't have that in Dubai, you can put it, if I've got a basket, put the stickers all along the edge of the basket. I put the stickers on the outside of the bag that the fruit and veg, or if it's in a shopping trolley, I put the stickers all along the edge of the trolley. And most of the staff will pick those up and dispose of them before you leave the supermarket. So bring in your own containers also means that anything you're using once and getting rid of, you're removing that from your shopping efforts. Yeah. We talked a little bit about with those deliveries, you can also ask them to have no packaging. I think one of the ladies had talked about using Kibsons, yeah, and they're great because they will do absolutely no packaging. And when you shop online with them, you'll even see the way that they price and just describe the product. It will show if it's in packaging or if it's loose. So you can even make a choice about whether you want to buy parsley from Kenya wrapped in plastic, or you're buying local parsley that's going to be loose. Yeah. So bring your own bags, containers. I have a big higgledy-piggledy, nothing matches. They're not necessarily shopping bags, but they get used as shopping bags. In terms of, I think the big piece for me here with the shopping is anything that's considered convenient is going to push you more towards unsustainable. It's going to be single use. So if you pick up something that's already peeled, sitting in plastic, ready for you to eat, that convenience, which you're paying for as a consumer, is going to bring some single use, is going to bring some extra packaging that you're not going to use again. So ready meals, fruit that's already been peeled. I think of kids' cheese sticks that have been cut and packaged and sitting in plastic. All of that convenience comes at a cost. It costs us in terms of the price, but it also then has a not sustainable piece that goes with it. Yeah. So getting it into your house, and again, if that all seems like too much, then choose one of those. The place I started, and I know Marita also started, was we said we're going to use our own shopping bags. I'm not going to use the plastic bags at the checkout at Spinneys or Choitrons. I'm going to take my own bags, and that's all I focused on until I got myself into a habit, and I often went to the store and didn't have them. I'd forgotten to put them back in the car. So it was getting that habit, and that's what I focused on. I'm just going to do my own bags. I'm not going to use the plastic bags at the checkout. And that's where I started. Then I went fruit and veggie section. What can I do about those small plastic bags? How can I do that differently? Yeah. Marita, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, okay, okay. Just in that it's when Kim was talking about the large bulk buy from the farmers market, I'm very different because there's just me. So in terms of how I introduce variety, because one of my challenges is that if I am looking for something that's loose and there's bulk, it is then how do I use it? So I use my freezer a lot. And that's where the meal planning is really good. So if I've got a lot of one ingredient, and it drives me, that's the knock-on effect. It drives me to be a little bit more inventive about what I do. But certainly that has been one of my challenges. And what has happened is that I have stretched, without thinking about it, my repertoire of meals, because I've had to think, how do I use this in a different way, and that I'm not completely bored with what I eat because I bought in bulk. The other thing, just my own experience of shopping in supermarkets and starting with the bags and just focusing on the bags, was the amount of people, and I will speak with anyone, you know, I'm happy to talk to people in shops, and I grew up in a supermarket, so I'm always curious, and I will speak with people. And the amount of people that, once you open that conversation, ask you, how do you manage your shopping bags? And look to you and say, that's a really good idea. So I think what we take for granted, there are some people exploring and don't understand how to incorporate that habit that Kim is speaking about. And by doing it, and one small thing, it's not just about yourself. You really do have a ripple effect with the people that you meet and that see what you're doing. And again, the people I find more comfortable with it are the children. The children have no problem with it. The children adapt really quickly. It is those of us that may be a little bit older that are stuck in a habit. So understanding it is a habit, it just takes a little bit of focus to change it. Kim, do you want to?
No, I think we've covered off. As you can tell, we could talk forever about this topic with all the ideas that we have. Yeah.
And curious.
So I think, so we've talked about the food, the purchasing. Kerry's digging veggies. Yeah. Well, and I know that Kerry also does her own gardening as well. So she's a tomato grower and a herb grower as well. So that's also another tip if you're looking to have a sustainable home, is actually growing some of your veggies. Having attempted tomatoes in the last couple of months, and now understanding how precious 5 little tomatoes are and what it took to bring those to fruition, I have a newfound appreciation for farmers. Yeah. So I think you've got it into your house in lots of ways. So again, think about that. How do you get it out of the supermarket into your house, and what is the one thing that you could change? And if you're already doing lots of those things, then think about what is the next thing that I could work on, and the next habit that I could bring. I think then storing it. So, you know, there's lots of ways to make sure that you store the right fruit and veg, in particular, your meat and fish, stored in the right way so that it's not going off, not making anyone ill. But I think the first thing is follow your meal plan. Yeah. So if you've got this food, you planned it out, you've got it into the home, then follow that meal plan. Use it as you've planned it out. The internet is a great resource. If you've got little bits and pieces left over and you're trying to find something to make with it, you can Google inspiration if you're looking to use the food that you've got available. That whole idea of eating what needs to be eaten first off, so that you've got longer fruit and vegetables or meat and fish that can go into the freezer that you can eat a little bit later on. We've talked here about, this is our big thing, is swapping out cling film and tin foil. So anything that you use once and throw away has a really huge impact on the environment. So anything that you can do to either eliminate or minimize it is going to be better for your sustainable kitchen. So you can use silicone lids. We've got a great range of wax wraps, which are an alternative to foil and cling film. You can put a plate on top of a bowl. Last week, I put a chopping board on top of a leftover lasagna tray and put it into the fridge. So again, in terms of how you are storing food, how you're using it, think about anything that you use once and then would throw away. That's the piece that you want to replace. So swap out that plastic or foil, or find a more sustainable option for that. Another one that I baked for years and was using a silicone bake sheet. Had never thought of a silicone bake sheet instead of baking a wax paper that you use maybe a couple of times, but a silicone bake sheet lasts for its life. Back with the shopping, but also storage, I try and buy as much as possible in glass. Yeah, so then you can reuse that container, put it through the dishwasher, scrape off the label or not, and those glass canisters can be used to store grains or lentils or bits of leftovers. You can take them to the supermarket. So if you want to buy a small amount of a ground spice, you don't need to buy a plastic shaker container. You can go to the counter where they've got all of those beautiful herbs and spices. You can hand them your small glass container and they can put in your 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon if that's what you need. So I always buy as much as I can in glass because I know that that can be reused. Marita freezes her leftovers in glass containers and they can go straight into the freezer. They defrost, you can microwave, and then they can be recycled at the end.
Just a tip on freezing
Of their life. I've always got a couple of boxes at the moment, and
we seem to have an overlap, Kim. I'm not sure. Are you? Okay, sorry. I think I spoke over you without meaning to. Please finish.
Sorry, you were going to do a tip about freezing with glass.
If you're freezing in glass, don't fill it to the top because it can be messy. You've got to leave some room for whatever you put into the glass jar to expand. And I think that's something that's forgotten about when people use, and you know, sometimes it just takes one bad experience. So if you're using glass for freezing, leave some room at the top for your contents to expand so that you don't have to deal with a subsequent mess because you just didn't know that. It does actually make a huge difference. Sorry, Kim.
That's fine. That's Marita, the home economics teacher, speaking. Yeah, and Sabrina, I need to connect with you on cherry tomatoes. So, and they grew alone. My much loved tomato plants that took a lot of talking and waving and care produced virtually no fruit for me. But that's great if they popped up from your compost heap. Sabrina's also had a question. How do loose products arrive at the supermarket? Are they plastic free? I'm not sure I understand your question, Sabrina.
So I'm going to take a stab here, Kim, and say that Sabrina is asking, do they come wrapped in plastic? And Sabrina, I think really in terms of why we pick kitchen is what Kim said at the beginning, is that a lot of the time we underestimate our own contribution. So there's some things we can control and there's some that we can be vocal about how we want choices. But for Kim and I, very much it is what is within our control and how much can we give feedback. And yes, there is a bigger piece that is certainly not ideal, but there are changes that we can make without worrying about what the supermarket is doing, maybe at the moment. It depends on where you are on your journey. Kim, sorry.
Yeah, and I think it can be overwhelming. So I think, Sabrina, if we think about the largeness of the issue, you can feel as an individual consumer a bit overwhelmed by it. So we're very much, okay, what do we have control over? What can we do differently? What can we influence? And we can influence what we purchase, how we purchase it, how we store it. If you're doing all of that and you want to get into the sort of community advocacy, etc., then that's great. Those opportunities are there as well. But I think for me, it's very much what can I do differently in my own sphere of influence and start there and build from there. The other piece around sort of the cutlery. So I think we're all now known for, in all of our handbags, or at least the one that gets used all the time, having a knife, a fork, a spoon wrapped in a cloth napkin. If you're a straw person, I think everyone knows we shouldn't be using single-use straws. People have got bamboo, they've got metal, etc., to carry around with them. But I do that now because the number of times I've been caught out going to, at the moment, if you go to a lot of restaurants or cafes in particular, you get plastic cutlery. And I thought, if I am contributing to this, what can I do a little bit differently? So packing a cutlery roll. You can certainly go and buy cutlery, bamboo cutlery in a beautiful roll. You can do that, but you can also take the cutlery that you have and wrap it up in a cloth napkin and use it that way. So I think that piece around follow your meal plan, eat all of the food that you have, store it well. So if vegetables dry out, use those first or seal them up, pack them into plastic boxes. I'll do a plug here. We've got these great wax bags that you can put fruit, vegetables, herbs into, and it it keeps everything really fresh, because what you want to do is not let that food go off in the fridge or get lost at the back of the counter. I think the other thing also there's a big movement around is food doesn't have to be perfect. So it can have a little bit of a blemish that can be cut out. We're not advocating that you potentially poison yourself and your family with your cooking, but a lot of food can be eaten even if it doesn't look perfect. And that can take a little bit of behaviour change in your family as well. Yeah. One plug I'd also like to do around, it's not necessarily storage and usage, but is around water. So I think another place where we have a lot is plastic bottles. So if you're able to move away from those, whether it's a service, whether it's a water filter set up in your kitchen, whether it's a filtering system you have on your top, that's also going to make a really big impact in terms of running a sustainable kitchen in your own home. And then the other piece I'd made a note of is if you, and we do a little bit at the end, if you buy products that are going to last, so I always think in the kitchen, wood or bamboo or metal. I like to use glass, but that can be a little bit tricky if you've got young kids or older family members. But bamboo mixing bowls or wooden mixing bowls can be dropped and won't break, unlike ceramic. I personally love wooden chopping boards. But again, with all of this, I wouldn't suggest you need to go out and get rid of everything in your kitchen and buy everything new. Just phase all of that in. So you break a bowl, thing you would buy, can that double up as storage? Can it double up as a salad bowl? Can it double up as something else? So anything that you can use in multiple ways, something that's going to last is kind of the direction you want to go with in the kitchen. Any other comments on the storage and usage piece, Marita?
Yeah, just an interesting observation from chatting to people at markets, because we've done the markets with the wax wraps, and it's amazing how our behavior influences children. So you would hear different stories of children who bring their sandwiches in their wax wrap and bring it home. And then other children who throw it out. And when you hear that the other, there's children that have thrown out the wax wrap, it is that carrying over a learned behavior from the disposable. So the behavior impacts further down the line as well. And it's about training. And Kim has said, we've got a download on how to go plastic free for you. But as Kim says in the download, it is be kind to others when you're doing it. So it's how do you instill the behavior, and you can see whether it's working in particularly how children behave, because they're very astute observers of us, and they will mimic what we do, and you see a lot of that. And Kiri likes switching to glass containers, but the home economics teacher in me comes out again. It's around the expiry dates for me, that if it's something in the fridge, that it is organized by what goes out of date first, or that you use what goes out of date, because it can lurk at the back of the fridge and be pushed to the back of the fridge. And whoever opens the fridge will invariably grab whatever is first in front of them. So a friend of mine, because she is hopeless, when she had her first child, and she was, as Kim said, afraid of poisoning the child, genuinely afraid of poisoning the child, she bought, and it was quite extreme, but it worked really well. She bought a label printing machine. And now I know we're going back a while and it was plastic. So you've got alternatives to it now, like writing on your glass container with a pen. But I find that writing the date is put into the fridge or the freezer with the date on it, and then I rotate around in dates.
Yep.
But having that visible in front of you can really trigger that this is when it is, and that you don't allow yourself to forget about it. So the simple habit of writing it and putting it in front of you makes it very present.
Yeah, and I think Kerry's comment also is, I also like that, Kerry, is that I've got, some lentils or a spice in a glass jar, and then I know what's there. If it's in one of those plastic containers, you don't like in a plastic bag, you don't necessarily know what it is. And glass, I seem to get myself a bit better organized. And then Sabrina, your question around, you know, whether those products that you're taking your own containers for and going to the supermarket, whether that bulk product's coming in plastic, I would ask them. The staff behind the counter may not know, but you could ask to speak with the manager. And if you're really interested in making a choice about which of those chain supermarkets you shop at, you could ask the question. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking, we've got 5 minutes, so let's get moving. So kitchen waste, we hadn't really talked about composting. So if you've done all of that really well, you're not going to have a lot of waste. If you can compost, if you've got a garden, there's some great Facebook groups that are set up for composters in the Middle East. Kerry, you talked about a non-smelly, so that bokashi system that you can buy a unit or you can buy a bucket. We can share those resources with you. As I said, great Facebook groups to think about the waste. But if you're shopping well, eating everything, freezing it, using it before it expires, you're going to minimize your kitchen waste. Yeah, we'll need to scoot through. And then we've done a little bit on cleaning products. So I love vinegar. I know it can't be used on all surfaces, so not on marble, on wood, on porous surfaces, but if you're looking to go a little bit less toxins in your home, vinegar, and there's loads of recipes on the internet. Vinegar, you can steep your leftover citrus peels in it, dilute it, use it as a sprayer everywhere. So I think I've got a couple of cleaners. One of them is vinegar with the citrus in it. And the other thing I've always disliked sponges. So you can buy compostable sponges. You can buy natural sponges that are like loofah sponges. Or I use, instead of a paper towel, I use fabric cloths that can be thrown in the wash and used again. So again, from a cleaning product, it's not necessarily waste, but it's more about thinking if you also want to minimize toxins in your home, then reverting to some simpler cleaners is also a good idea. We've also got some great local homegrown products. So the Botanist does a beautiful range of low toxin cleaning products. You've got a couple of supermarkets, including Organic Cafe, where they've got refill centers. So you can take back in, get dish soap, laundry liquid, dishwasher tabs that are not going to be packaged in several layers of plastic. So lots of options if you want to start changing some of the way that you clean in the kitchen and then probably in the rest of the house as well. Yeah. And with all of that, it's kind of having that system in place. Yeah.
Yeah, and just on that with my cleaner, because a lot of the time what happens in my kitchen may not be me. So I have a cleaner and I actually put the vinegar into the bottles. I don't tell her to use it because I know I'll get pushed back. She very much likes a lot of her toxic products. So I put vinegar into my cleaning bottles, and what she doesn't know doesn't actually bother her. So rather than have the effort of saying this is what needs to be happening and having that conversation every week, I just put what I want in the bottles, and it has a label on it. It's a bottle that is reused again and again. But as far as she's concerned, it is something that is what she is used to, and she's happy about it. I know it doesn't cover the education piece, but it makes me a little bit happier about what's happening in my own kitchen. And I know it happens even if I'm not there. So it is a real challenge with if you've got somebody else helping you, because a lot of time what we hear people say around this cleaning piece is, let me speak to, a lot of us have the privilege of people helping us. Let me speak to the person that's helping me. What do they want? And then there's an education piece around the person that is helping you and how we drive that a little further, which is a subject for something, for another webinar. Just any of those in terms of the plastic-free tips, again with the QR code, if you scan the QR code, you get our download on our top 5 plastic tips. Valeria, if I've pronounced that right, I actually put vinegar into a cleaning product a friend of mine makes. Even though the product is very good, my cleaner doesn't like the smell of it. But a friend of mine makes a cleaning product from citrus peel. And she makes it in an Oasis 5-gallon container and she bottles it. So that's a cleaner that I use, and I put the vinegar into that, and vinegar directly into the washing machine, and directly into a bottle for cleaning
Yep.
glass, because it's a fantastic window glass cleaner. Yeah, that's why she hasn't noticed. Yeah, absolutely. So if you want, I'll move from this slide for the plastic-free tips, but if you do want, if you haven't had a chance to do that, you can touch base with us and we'll send it on to you. And I think really, a lot of this is around our belief systems. Maybe not for those of you that are on the call. There's a lot coming through in terms of you have adjusted belief systems. But a lot of this is around what we believe rather than what we do. What the feedback we hear is no time, no money, I don't know how, or I already know this, or I don't know how to start. And it's a shift in some of those belief systems. And a lot of that is around education. And what is fantastic is that Shift Eco provide this platform to do it. And on top of that, there are more alternatives in the market. So Kim and I have explored alternatives. Kim has mentioned a number of them there. But the other thing that we can help with is the products that we have used that are available in the market at the moment, that help us make simple swap outs and replacements. And it deals, these are only beliefs. And when we have a belief, it's not always true. It's only how we perceive the information, and the education piece is really key to it. So essentially, we're doing this because we've got a huge belief that Kim and I can both influence it, and we get people coming to us and asking us. So thank you to Shift Eco for letting us share our knowledge with you today. It's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and if you do any of this, you will already have made, even from one thing after this session, you will have made a significant impact if everybody does it on our carbon footprint. So everybody, one small change, whatever you can do. We, as well as products, I see we're right at the end, but we also do some consulting. So we've got a number of ways that we can help. We have the sustainable shopping kits, as Kim said, with the wax wraps, the bags, the net bags, the fruit, fabulous new bread bags at the moment. I love the colours, reversible. I think it's the colours that got me. But we also do an eco blitz of your kitchen. So, if you want 2 hours and we'll come in and help you say what works and where you can make out simple swaps, we can do that with you. Or we can do it 2, 4, 8 hours, and we can go in and help reorganize your kitchen. What that looks like, or just give you the information where you can go and explore that yourself. So if you want to contact us, I'll put up our email address, but our favorite quote would be from Author Ash: start where you're at, use whatever you can and use what you have and do whatever you can. And if we all did that, actually, I asked the girls at Market, why Shift Eco? Why would the name Shift Eco? And they said it was making a small shift towards something that was ecological. And I think it very much echoes our philosophy as well, that if we all make one small change with what you have and where you're at, you move us towards improvement. Kim, do you want to do the giveaway? 2 minutes for a giveaway. Kim, do you want to do the giveaway?
Yes. So, Sukriti, we wanted to give everyone the opportunity. So if people can email us at thebizknees@Triello, we'll give everyone a few days if you're going to upload the session. We'll do there's 2 prizes. We'll do a free 30-minute eco kitchen consultation, and we're going to make a post with a link to the recording, and anyone who likes, shares and comments is going to go into the draw for a sustainable shopping kit. Yeah, so just as an encouragement for the audience.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Marita. I think you both spoke out of a lot of personal experience, and that's what made this session extremely practical with all your tips and tricks. It's been absolutely wonderful having you both. And for anybody else, before we wrap up the session, do we have any questions? Okay, so and thank you so much for this wonderful giveaway. I hope everybody can make use of it, and it will just really encourage us to make certain small shifts that go along which is absolutely the shift eco's theory, as Marita mentioned. And before we sign off, this recording is going to be put up on our Learn with Shift Eco blog. So if you log into our website, there is a small section on the top right hand corner that says Learn, and all our blog recordings are there for you to view in future. So would be great if we could receive any sort of feedback, any further questions that pop up later. Please do email us, and we'd be happy to connect you to Kim and Marita. And so take a look. Their products are actually also available on our website, the bee's knees wax wraps. We also have multiple other kitchen products. Before I make this sound like a sales pitch, but we actually are doing a lot of staples that come in plastic free packaging. They're organic staples, but they don't cost the way a lot of other organic products do. We have a lot of kitchen cleaners, a lot of DIY products with which you can make your home cleaning products at home. So hope that helps anybody on this session to sort of make small changes. And thank you guys. Thank you for attending this session. And yeah, we look forward to them put Kim and Marita putting up their giveaway, and I hope a lot of you can make use of that. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Marita, for joining us.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Sukriti, for the opportunity. Have a great day, everyone.
Well,
Bye-bye.
bye.